We are live talking about the biggest day in motorsports, which is coming up on Sunday. And we get an opportunity to talk about it here on a Tuesday afternoon with CJ Radune, rotowire.com. Monaco Grand Prix, followed by the Indy 500 and the Coke 600, CJ. Not in that order, how we're going to be talking about the races on the show, but nonetheless, it should be a wild and highly entertaining day on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Last year, we got robbed from the Coca-Cola 600 point of view with a rain situation. So Kyle Larson wasn't able to attempt to pull off the double. He made it there, but just as unfortunately the rain started falling and they ended the race. So we'll see if that we can avoid that this weekend, this year. Not supposed to have weather or at least rain in Indianapolis. So hopefully the same is true for Charlotte as well, and we can get everything in. But looking forward to it for sure.
So if there is weather issues, then Monaco is the one that can deal with it the most?
Monaco is the one that can deal with it the most. They've got rain tires. They've run that whole race in the wet before. I remember 1996, it was really bad conditions in the wet. Back then, only the top 6 finishers scored points, and I think only 4 actually crossed the line. So they had to classify 6 people, even though they dropped out in order to award the points. But again, hopefully we don't have that again this year.
Okay. So, yeah. Well, anyway, that's what's going on with Sunday. We still have a little ways to go. It's only Tuesday. So, yeah, we have no way. I mean, we can't count the weatherman for anything nowadays, let alone we're going to know what's going on in Monaco. So we're not even going to try to imagine it. Okay, so we're going to talk some Coke 600 first, then we're going to preview the race in
Indy.
In Indy. Are we doing that second?
We can do Monaco next. We can do Indy last. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can do Monaco second and then Indy last. We'll do that. We'll do that. We'll do it in the normal order we do the show, where we record the NASCAR. Well, they don't know. We do a recording it. This is live. So, but that's what we do. We normally record the NASCAR first, then we do the F1. So we'll do it in that order, and then we'll talk some Indy 500. Okay, so let's talk about the Coke 600. And, this is, the more I think about it, the more, especially with the All-Star race last week, being another, I actually have found people on social media that actually liked it. I thought it was some sort of like real great thing, the All-Star race. I mean, the bar was really low, so maybe that helped. But it's short. It's a short track, and a short track with this next gen is just nobody can pass. What did you expect? They were going to pass in the All-Star race? I mean, it's just not happening. It's boring. I don't know who likes that. So anyway, but who was it? Kozlowski said something about maybe we should go back to Charlotte, and he's right. I mean, we used to have 2 races at Charlotte, and I know that with the old car, it might have been boring because it was a 1.5 mile track, and it used to be really boring with the old car. But now the better racing, not all of them. We saw what happened at Kansas, but it's better now on the 1.5 mile races. So why not give Charlotte a second race? I mean, we'll see what happens here on Sunday, but if they have a really good race, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't do that. I mean, it's their home track. I mean, why wouldn't they have 2 races a year at Charlotte? I'm not talking about the road course.
Yeah, Keselowski also said we shouldn't go back to the road course, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody did too, and I agree with that too. I was reflecting on the All-Star race because I do think North Wilkesboro this time did produce a better show than I was expecting. I don't know if that's enough to make it a points-paying race in the future. I think it was just kind of one of those one-off situations where the circumstances made for slightly better racing than we otherwise would have expected. There's a little bit of banking in the turns. There's a couple of different lines that drivers could take. But at the end of the day, in the 2 qualifying heats, the pole sitter won both times. In the open race, you only had 2 drivers lead. Shane Van Gisbergen led the first half, and then Carson Hocevar led the second half. And then really by the time, the only thing that made Christopher Bell, or allowed Christopher Bell to win, because Joey Logano dominated the All-Star race, was that promoter's caution. So I feel like there are certain circumstances that wouldn't be around in points races that made last weekend a little bit more entertaining than it probably otherwise would be. So I'm a little bit worried that they introduce it as a points paying race, perhaps next season or the season beyond. And I think I think we should expect it just based on the way NASCAR does things and the way it built up the All-Star race. But, you know, they're finally coming to their senses on a championship race, going back to someplace like home.
Yeah.
Why not do the same thing again? If you give North Wilkesboro a points paying race, then you don't have to go back there for the All-Star race, and you can take it to Charlotte and have the 2 oval races again. So hopefully,
can't they just remove Texas from the Actually, I'd rather than remove Kansas the way that was. There were a couple other races that were worse, because at least Texas, as we talked about, at least it was so much carnage there at that. It made it interesting.
Kansas as a track has potential.
It does.
Texas does not have potential.
No, it doesn't.
So I'd get rid of Texas.
We could pick out a couple others that are worse.
Sure.
Okay. So as far as this, we only have 1 race per year to look at. And I was going over handicapping strategies this week. And, you know, there's one that really sticks out. So really, we're going to go after COVID. So that gives us the last 4 races. A lot of times we'll talk about next gen, but there's only 1 race per year since then. So if we look back at the last 4 years, what's interesting is, and, you know, a lot of times we talk about, sometimes qualifying matters, sometimes it doesn't. Same thing with practice. Well, this is a track that is all about qualifying. So if you just look at the last 4 years, the car that dominated qualifying, the manufacturer, won the race all 4 years. So when Larson won it in 2021, he was a Chevy. Chevy had the top 4 cars qualifying and 6 of the top 7. In 2022, when Denny Hamlin, a Toyota, won, Toyota had the top 4 cars in qualifying. 2023, there was no practice, not that we care. Blaney won the race as a Ford, 3 different manufacturers, by the way, at this point. And Ford had 2 of the top 3 at qualifying. And Bell won last year, the Toyota, and Toyota had 3 of the top 4 in qualifying. So that's a trend that seems to make sense. And even though it's not Saturday, that's a reason to tune in on Saturday for my starting lineup report, as we're going to remind everybody about this, or tell anybody who might not have seen this show. And then we'll make our additional or updated picks then based on that. But that's maybe that's not really too surprising, knowing Charlotte. Not to say that the practice runs for those drivers weren't good; they were. It's just that the like as far as the winning drivers, it's just showing you that for whatever reason, because sometimes, like I remember Blaney when he won in 2023, he was not one of those top 2 of those top 3 that was in qualifying. He was actually 8th and won the race. So again, it doesn't have to be that driver. It's just, I think it shows you that if a manufacturer is fast this week coming up in Charlotte, then that's the one you probably want to take a look at.
Agreed. And Charlotte has a tendency to, if you unload quick and you're quick in practice and qualifying, you go out there and with the long green flag stretches, you build up a lead that becomes unassailable. Really tough track, certainly with the old car, to be able to pass on. A little bit better with this new car and the new aerodynamics. So this car is also more adjustable, but still the predominance of winners are coming from the top 10, not the first couple of rows. So I think anybody that's looking for a winner is going to want to pick somebody that starts inside the top 10. This track, this race, these races in particular, just have a tendency for somebody that is quick in qualifying to be able to jump out to a big lead and then hold it throughout the entire race.
Yeah, speaking now here's the interesting thing, though. If you just look back at the last 11 winners, 5 of them actually started outside the top 10. 11th, 14th, 17th, 19th, and 22nd. 3 of them, though, were on the pole. Then if you take a look at manufacturers, again, there's no edges there. So that's not something that we're going to talk about. But this is also interesting. We have had 8 different Coke 600 winners in the last 8. Okay. I mean, that's especially since a lot of them has won a year, or at least 4 of them, half of them have won a year. That's interesting. But the one that's more interesting is no current driver that will be racing on Sunday has ever won the Coke 600 twice. Okay, so if you want to use that trend and you want to say, okay, well, let's say that continues, then you are not going to pick Bell, Blaney, Hamlin, Larson, Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon. The other one was Truex. So interesting, kind of surprising that no current driver has won the Coke 600 twice. And as we go into these driver, take a look at the odds and break down each driver, you know, there's it does. I mean, there are, you know, a lot of the, you know, a lot of what we're going to go through here, while there are some decent long shots, most of them are kind of in those 20s. This isn't one of those races, especially because it's the longest race of the year, that's going to come normally from a long shot. The only way a long shot's going to win is how Austin Dillon won, where you're going to steal it and lead 2 laps. And I forget how we won that race. I don't know if it was, I don't know if there was weather involved or whatever. I don't know. Do you remember when Austin Dillon stole the race and he only led 2 laps? Why he did, how he did that?
I don't remember how he did it, but I do remember him winning, and it was unexpected. Started back in 22nd spot, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the circumstances were. You know, the circumstances last year actually were set up for somebody to steal it with the rain coming in. Actually, looking here, it could not have been weather because they got all 600 miles in. So last year with Christopher Bell's win, they only got 374 miles in. So that would have been the perfect time for somebody to steal it, not Dillon.
All right, so let's take a look at the odds. So it shouldn't be surprising who's going to come first.
I'm going to guess Kyle Larson is.
All right. So let's start with it. All right. So before we even go into this then, so what's this? So Kyle Larson is going to start, what, 19th or something like that?
Yeah.
In the Indianapolis 500.
21st. Is it 20?
Oh, 21st. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
19th.
Well, did he move up 2 spots because of the 2 drivers who got pushed to the back? Maybe that's that's what happened.
1 second. 19th. Yep. He qualified 21st. We'll start 19th.
There you go. Okay. So that race, as long as there's no major delays, race will end.
There's no reason to choose Kyle Larson this week. Like, why is he the favorite?
And then he's got to fly to.
It's insane.
He's got to fly to Charlotte, get in a car, and now when he gets in the car, is he going to be, if there's no delays, is he going to be able to get in the car before the race begins?
Theoretically, yes. There shouldn't be rain in Indianapolis. And by the way, NASCAR changed the rules because of what happened last year where he wasn't able to start. If he does not actually start this race, then he has to apply for a playoff waiver. And if he's granted the waiver, then he loses all of his playoff points. So NASCAR basically stacked the deck to say, you have to come to Charlotte or your season is over. And unless a circumstance at Indy plays out where Kyle Larson is in contention to win at the end and time is running short for him to be able to make it to Charlotte in time to get in the car and start that race, he's going to give up Indy and he's going to go to Charlotte. And I joke about, you know, why is he the favorite? Because he's trying to do 1,100 miles. And yes, he has a legitimate shot at potentially winning both races. And I would say arguably has a better shot at winning Charlotte. But the fact is, only one driver has ever even completed both races, 1,100 miles. That was Tony Stewart. No drivers won either in that year. So it's a tall order to expect Kyle Larson, with all the stuff that happens and all the travel that he has to get through, to come and be in a position to come and win this race. So having him at as a favorite, maybe it makes any other week, but
yeah, I know.
Give us a break. I just don't see from a financial standpoint how that makes any kind of sense.
It doesn't. It's all about value when you're wagering, and there is zero value in thinking, again, could it happen? Yes. Is it like a long shot? Well, maybe not a long shot, but it's not a favorite, that's for sure.
Correct.
So he should really be around 20 to 1, probably something like that.
You know, I was thinking 20s. 20 to 1. If you wanted to give 12 to 15, I think that's fine, but he's going to be the favorite, and he's going to be like 3 or 4. Just guessing. I'm assuming based on recent trends. Okay, you get 1 extra point from what I was thinking.
Yeah, you got an extra point because he's going to go racing at the Indy 500.
It's not worth it. No. Does he have a chance to win this race? Yes. Is it arguably the better shot of him winning this versus the Indy 500? Absolutely. But so much goes into it, and he's making it harder on himself, and you're still going to make him the favorite and force us to pay up to take him. I'm just not going to do it. Is he good here? Yes. Is Hendrick good on 1.5 mile ovals? Yes. But again, with everything going against him or for him, however you want to look at it, on Sunday, I just don't see any reason to choose him as a favorite.
Yeah, he's having a really good year, much better year than last year, with 8 top 5s and 3 wins. But he's won the Coke 600. Again, I don't even have to say it because I just said it at the Open once. That was when he dominated in 2021. And he dominated. This is one of those races he dominates, and he's been known to do that. His average finish at Charlotte for 14 races is 17.7.
6 top 10 finishes at Charlotte out of those 14 races.
Just 2 top 5s.
Correct.
And he's 5 to 1 racing at the Indy 500 first. So, okay. Let's now go to some more realistic driver options here. And who do you think is the next choice or two?
I would be shocked if it's not Christopher Bell. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I didn't really think that this was a very smart decision either, but considering Larson, it makes sense because of the fact that of his history here. And that's what they're going on.
Yeah.
They're going on the fact that Hamlin has 12 top 5s and 23 and 33 races. 21 of those are top 10s, or 21 top 10s. But again, do I have to say it again? 1 win. That's it. Just 1 win. And he only led 15 laps when he won that race. 15. He's led only 38 laps in his last 6 combined at Charlotte. And in his last 3 races this season, 36th, 38th, and 21st. I will not be taking Denny Hamlin this week. Not at 6 to 1.
His better finishes at Charlotte tended to be with the older car. You hit it on the head. He won from the pole in 2022, crashed out in 23. He did get a top 5 in 24 last season, but he didn't lead any laps. Started 11th. Again, that was a rain-shortened race. Do I think Denny Hamlin has a chance? Absolutely. Could he put everything together and be one of those guys that's going to be up there in the top 5 and with the potential to win at the end? Yeah, absolutely. But just based on kind of recent trends, certainly at this track, he's not one that would be rising to the top, and certainly in my book doesn't justify being the second favorite.
By the way, since we're doing this live, just for the live viewers, do you have any questions, comments, let us know, and we'll interact with you right here as we go along. Okay, now we're going to get to some really more normal options. Okay, so here's Christopher Bell. And who should be next?
In my mind, maybe a Byron or Elliott.
So there's Byron. And Bell and Byron are definitely, in my opinion, these are better options than Larson and Hamlin. And you're getting extra points here. Bell's a defending champ. He really dominated last year. So even though it rained and shortened, he was the best car, no doubt about it. He led 90 laps and looked good on Saturday as well. He also led 48 laps in 2023's race when he started 24th. He's been good in Xfinity at this track. He's coming off a second at Kansas. He's coming off winning an all-star race. He hasn't won a race since earlier this year when he won 3 straight. So, yeah, I think this is where we start to get more serious options in my mind. And William Byron also a very serious option because he's yet to win. So I think he's a really good candidate. If you want to go against, if you want to stay with that trend, he's a good one because in his last 4, all the post-COVID year races, he did crash one, okay? But he started 5th in that race. The other 3 all starts in the top 5, and that's very important. As we said, you got to start in the top, 5 or 10. That'd be an advantage. 3rd, 2nd, and 4th, leading 159 laps in those 3 races combined. He also has 3 poles in 8 races and an average starting position of 5.6.
Yeah, just from the fact that he hasn't won, from the trends that we talked about, that so many different winners in the 600-mile race, no repeats. He's never won at Charlotte, but he's been very good at Charlotte. 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s, a pole from 8 career starts. Average finish is 15.1, but his average start across all of those 8 is 5.6. And that's exactly where you need to be in contention to win this race. So I think William Byron definitely one to have on your radar this week.
And what do you think about Bell?
Oh, certainly Bell. I think he's just got so much going right for him right now that he's been having a fantastic season. He's got 3 top 10s out of 6 career tries here at Charlotte. His average finish is actually better than William Byron's. His is 14.0. His average start is within the top 10 as well. So I think Christopher Bell stands a good chance, should be very competitive. The only question I have on him is he won this race last year, albeit rain shortened. And by the way, he won last week. So we always talk about how difficult it is to repeat at a track, but then also repeat back to back. So it's going to be tough for him to do it just from a statistical point of view. But I think probably, aside from Blaney and Larson, etc., I'm not sure there's many other drivers that would stand up to Bell at this point this week.
Yeah, Bell is he's looking really good right now, and it's almost like you get the feeling that even though he was obviously hotter earlier in the year, that this is really shaping up to be a really good year for Bell, maybe a championship year for Bell. So that's definitely something to consider, even though your odds aren't going to be that great because. Actually, where are his odds now? We haven't looked at that. Here are the futures. What are they looking like? No, 4-1, obviously better than Larson, but yeah, it's still kind of low. I don't know. You were able to get, I forget what they were in the beginning of the season, much better than 4-1.
They weren't 4 at the beginning of the season, that's for sure.
Yeah. Surprised Logano's 12-1 after he won. Okay. Let's now keep up with the odds of the race. Let's move to the next. Tyler Reddick. And Reddick is also just like Byron and pretty much like Bell at 7-1 here, and a good option because he's got 5 top 10s in 6 races, 2 of those top 5s, an average of 7.7. He's got a win at this track in the Xfinity Series. The only thing is he hasn't, because Reddick can be streaky, and he's not firing on all cylinders right now over his last 4 races. No top 10s. That's the thing that would concern me the most, especially at such a low number of 7-1. But again, I think he's a good option right up there with Bell and Byron.
Yeah, I think Reddick is a good option, especially at Charlotte. If there's any place that he can turn around his recent skid, I think it would be this place. Ninth, sixth, fifth, and fourth in his last 4 races here, and he's led some laps. He didn't lead any laps last year, but I think that actually is my biggest concern about choosing Reddick this week, is just that he hasn't been out front leading laps at all really this season, to be honest with you. Definitely not recently. So perhaps this is a week that can change. I think this was a good track for him. Certainly should be within the top 10. The question is whether or not he can get out front and actually lead for a good spell.
Okay, so the next driver, I should probably let's see here.
I know who it is. There we go.
Let's put this over here. That's very good. We need a new one of those. Should have had 2 of them, actually. They let that Logano kid in. He never deserved to be in the race in the first place. All right. So there he is, 8-1. And I got to tell you that, even though he's one of these drivers who have won a race already, I really think that this is especially the way that Blaney and the team is, the style of their racing. I think this is like a racetrack that's sort of like tailor-made for them, because it's a long race. So you would generally think that there's a possibility that as the race goes on, that there'll be some longer green flag runs. And that just fits Ryan Blaney perfectly, as long as he's got a fast car. And if you look at it, in his last 9 races at Charlotte, he's had 3 DNFs. But in the other 6, his average is 6.8 with a win. He had that really strong win a couple of years ago. By the way, he was 22-1 when he won that race. And he has, more importantly, maybe, he has 4 top 5s in his last 5. So he's getting really close. And I think this, if you're looking for a driver who's already won, you're getting decent numbers here at 8-1. He's not a bad choice.
The competitiveness that Ryan Blaney and the team have been showing all season has been probably the best I think I've ever seen them. They've just been having bad luck from time to time, whether it's a bad pit stop, get caught up in something on track, or whatever the case may be. Like, something inevitably earlier in the season was definitely holding them back, but they had the speed to compete and they had the speed to win. And I think you're starting to see that a little bit more recently. Charlotte, I agree, is a place where he can come out, and without a doubt, I would expect him to be finishing inside the top 5, certainly the top 10 in this race. And hopefully, if they're just able to avoid those mistakes, avoid other people's problems, I think that Blaney should be in with a shot to win at the end of this thing. I think he's a very good choice, probably the best choice actually out there right now, compared from looking at the odds from a value perspective right now. I would say Blaney is probably the best option that's out there that we've talked about.
Okay. Now we're going to start getting some even better value, because I do believe that this is a really good value pick here, and that's Chase Elliott. And matter of fact, this one is surprising. I have no idea what Kyle Busch is doing at 12-1, sort of like Hamlin, though, in a way, because he has the history. He's got 16 top 5s, but once again, just 1 win. And that was a win he dominated from the pole back in 2018, and he's led almost 1,500 laps at the track. But he has 1 top 5 on the year. The good thing is he has raced well here, even since he's changed manufacturers, teams and such, which has been a big issue for him. He's had a 6.5 average post-COVID. So that's good, but he's only led 38 laps in the last 6. We gave you all the negative reasons. I don't mind taking Kyle Busch as a nice 18-20-1 shot. I think that's not a bad, but 12-1, I don't see that. But Chase Elliott, similar to Blaney, he's had 4 DNFs. If you just take a look at his career, he's had 4 DNFs. The other 9, he's got an average of 6.1 with a win. He's also coming off maybe his best 1.5-mile race of the season. Even though the result wasn't there, he was leading laps. Things were looking good. And he has just recently, last year, won the Xfinity race at Charlotte. He started 30th in that race, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, we're not talking 8-1. Now we're starting to talk, okay, we've got some value here. I definitely think he's part of that. And I clearly would take him over Kyle Busch.
Without question, I would take Chase Elliott over Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch and maybe even Hamlin to an extent, yeah, they have good records at this track over their history, but they're also probably getting a veteran boost. They've been here. This is a different race than any kind of other race that you have on the schedule. It's an extra 100 miles long. So having that experience on your side probably plays to your favor. But Elliott's got that experience as well, not as much, but he's really, really quick here and led a ton of laps in the old car. He's starting to find his groove in the new car. Like you said, started 5th and finished 7th with the rain shortened race last year. And he hasn't not led laps at Charlotte since 2018. So he's been out front regardless of where he's finished and whatever's happened every year at this track since 2000, or every race at this track since 2018. And it's really rare that he's not out front leading laps at this track. So he gets it. He gets this car now. I think this is a great value, and I would put him above Blaney at this point, just by the fact that you're getting a quarter more versus Blaney.
Sure. Okay. Now we start going into some nice little value plays here. Let's take a look at this board. Might as well stick with the 18-1s. Gibbs, Chastain, and Logano. Gibbs might be the play here. He doesn't have the history of Chastain and definitely Logano. We know that. But he was on the pole last year, led 74 laps, finished 6th in only his second Cup race. He has been very good here in Xfinity Series. All 4 races were top 10s, including a win. 4.3 average in the Xfinity Series. And then translated that in his second go-around in the Cup Series to a strong effort. Qualified 19th in his first appearance in the Cup, so that's why he didn't finish well. So Gibbs is definitely someone that maybe if you roll the dice now, you roll the dice, hope he has a good qualifying effort. If he does, you're in good shape at 18-1. The only thing is he has now kind of cooled off again a little bit over his last several races. But I do like him over Chastain and Logano. Chastain could be interesting because his average starting position is just 19.1. So he's the type that I don't know if his numbers would drop considerably if he qualified well. So I'm willing to wait to see if he were to qualify because he's never qualified in the top 5 ever. He's only had 7 races. So that's something to keep in mind. He was 8th last year, led 10 laps from the 7th position. And in 2022, when he finished 15th, he led 153 laps. And he did that from the 22nd position. So he could be an option. Logano, I don't see anything since post-COVID. 18.0 average, high of 14th. Led just 9 laps in his last 4 races at Charlotte.
Yeah, you almost feel like Logano, number one, should have a better record than he actually does at Charlotte. But you also feel like last week that he might be owed a race win. But that's about the only reason that you would choose him this week. I think Gibbs and Chastain, as you said, are definitely the better choices. Chastain is really interesting to me because he finished 8th. Last year, that was his first top 10 at the track. He led 10 laps in that race, but that 153 laps led in 2022 ended up finishing 15th. And we know that when Chastain is good at a track, he's really good at a track. And I think he showed that with 153 laps led in that race. So I think Chastain is interesting, like you said, but I still think I agree in general with Gibbs being the top choice out of this bunch. He was on pole last year, finished 6th. Led 74 laps from pole. I bet you he's going to be up there again this weekend. So I think in order of this group, it would be Gibbs, Chastain, and Logano for me.
Okay. Next group. Okay, we're in the 20s now. And you got the teammates there, Buescher and Keselowski. Buescher has 4 top 10s out of 12. He hasn't led a whole lot of laps, but he's never started in the top 10. So I'd kind of wait on that myself. Keselowski is really starting to get interesting the way he's been going out there the last few races, and say what you want about the way that they mishandled the tire pressure, but he's not going to be in that position without that. So I guess give it a try. I don't know. They're 33rd in points, so you got to try silly things. So at least he's doing more stuff that we're noticing him now. The only thing is, can you imagine Brad Keselowski lasting the longest race of the season? That's the only thing. So I think there might be hope for Brad Keselowski now that I didn't think he had anywhere before, even before the season began. But, not this week. I can't see that unless he steals it. Don't forget, he was runner-up last year. We're starting 30th, but this is not last year. Meanwhile, Briscoe and Bowman. Briscoe's coming off a 4th at Kansas, which is nice, but he's got to start in the top 10 for me to even have a chance, because his average starting position is 18.5. He does have a top 5, but out of 4, but he hasn't really shown much here. Bowman, on the other hand, is another good play this week. You get to 25-1. He's got an average of 9.0 in the 4 post-COVID races, nothing worse than 12th. He's coming off a 5th at Kansas, and he had a good 2-race run just before the COVID year, where he led 164 laps in the Coke 600 in 2020. Later that year, I think it was later that year, he led 51 laps in the second race, whatever that was called back then. And so that was looking good. Then he went to COVID. Hasn't led, I don't think, since, but the results have been good. So, I think this is one of those weeks where Bowman is a really good long shot play.
Bowman might be my top choice out of this bunch, to be honest with you. Keselowski would probably be second, only because he started to show some speed. But the question, like you said, is his luck has been so bad this season, and they have to kind of throw the weird things at the car, like you said, to try to get him up there. So is that going to make it all the way through 600 miles? I don't know. Chris Buescher, probably I'd put above Chase Briscoe, but the standout for me certainly is Alex Bowman. He's in a Hendrick Chevrolet, consistently finishes inside the top 10 at Charlotte, especially since this car was introduced. The only drawback about Bowman, why he's not getting the odds of Elliott, would be just the fact that he's not out front leading laps at this track. But that's what I would say.
All right. In this group, Josh Berry is the obvious one because his odds are the way they are based on he's the better choice. So I'd go with that. He was 10th last year, which is pretty good considering it was his first go about. And actually it was his second, I believe. He does have an Xfinity win. Throw that in there. And he was 6th at Kansas coming in. So those are all good signs. As far as the rest of them, I'm not really seeing much. Bubba has not gone well the last couple of races coming in here. His last 2 races at Charlotte in this race were okay, 11th and 4th. So that's good. Reddick is a teammate. You could see why they've got it dialed in here. Plus, you're getting 30-1, but he's led 1 lap in this race in his career. And again, the longer the race, it's not feeling it for Bubba Wallace. Cindric hasn't done anything here in the Cup Series, and neither really has Suarez.
Yeah, and Barry's been racing extremely well this season. I think, the win, they've proven that wasn't a fluke because they've been up at the front at various tracks. It's another 1.5 mile oval. He won that race at a 1.5 mile oval. He does only have the one Cup Series start here. That was last year, obviously a shortened race, so we don't know what he'd do over the full 600 miles, but he did lead 7 laps, started 13th, finished 10th. So I think Barry is definitely the one to choose here. Bubba Wallace, again, put 600 miles, just probably top 15 kind of expectation I would put on him. I'd like to see and like to think that Cindric would have been a much better choice than some of the folks on this screen as well, but he's done nothing here as well. And Daniel Suarez, really nothing to talk about as well. In fact, Cindric, I think, had 2 DNFs out of his 3 starts.
Yep.
DNFs, 3 starts, best finish of 20th last year. So no reason to choose Cindric this week either.
Okay. Let me go to some more long shots here. I have no idea what Connor Zilich is doing in this group.
He's driving for Trackhouse, if I'm not mistaken. One off.
Is he who's Who's he taking?
This race is the first time, I think, since the Daytona 500 that they're going to have a full field of 40 cars, and that's several one-offs are coming, and one of them is Connor Zilic.
So an extra car. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Preece hasn't done anything here in his career. I mean, nothing. He hasn't started well. He hasn't finished well. So I just can't see this being the week to go with Ryan Preece. Carson Hocevar, if you look at him, he had one Xfinity race, and he finished 8th in 2023, which is nice. And he's had 2 top 5s and 3 truck races, including a runner-up. And he led over 100 laps. So that's nice. But to expect Carson Hocevar to win the longest race of the season is just, it's not happening. But if he's going to win a race, it is not going to be the longest race of the year unless he steals it. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., though, is the one here that is the interesting one. And I think he's, in my opinion, we have now reached the last part. I mean, the end part of the long shots. I mean, this is it for me. This is the longest shot I'm willing to take is Ricky Stenhouse. He has, if you look at it, his last 10 races average at Charlotte is 12.8. And that includes the 31st last year. So going into last year, he had a 10.8 average. He has 8 top 15s in his last 10, including 5 top 10s and 2 top 5s at this track. That is very, very good for a Ricky Stenhouse. That is 14th in points right now and is quietly having, a pretty decent season. He kind of needs that one. And I'm not talking about a super speedway win. He needs that one convincing win somewhere to say that he's for real. Now, can he do it here? I don't know. But at 55-1, I'm willing to throw a few bucks on him.
Yeah, I think Stenhouse is the standout choice here. Best long shot I've seen on the board. A consistent top 10 finisher in this race specifically. And like you said, by the way, he's 15th in points with 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s in the season so far. Hocevar, a little bit too, not a whole lot of experience, not a whole lot to go by for him. Obviously, in other races, 1.5 mile ovals, from time to time, he's shown speed. But again, putting that speed together for an entire 600 miles is probably a little bit too much to ask. I'd be interested to see how much improvement we see from Ryan Preece, because this will be the first time he's at Charlotte with this car, with this team. And he's been a different driver since he's joined RFK Racing. So I'm interested to see what he can do. But I think as we talked about with Keselowski and Buescher, they've got their problems at this track. This hasn't been one that has exactly been the best for them. So I think Preece will do better than his average. And that's probably a good reason to choose him from a fantasy perspective. But I think taking a wager on him as a long shot might be more of a flip of the coin, kind of more of a gut feel than anything else. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the data backs it up. I would take him as a long shot for sure.
I mean, seriously, Connor Zilic at 50-1. It's sort of like even Noah Gragson shouldn't be 50. Neither should Eric Jones. I mean, Noah Gregson's done nothing here in the Cup Series. He's never won an Xfinity Series race. Jones has done nothing at Charlotte in his career. McDowell also really hasn't done much at all. Dylan's got the win at least and 5 top 10s, and he does have 3 top 10s in his last 5. So I guess he would be the one that would stick out. Other than that, I mean, Zane Smith was 10th in his first go around, starting 29th, which was pretty impressive. And we've talked a lot about, him so far. John Hunter Nemechek has had himself, a nice little season so far. He's got back-to-back top 10s coming in. He's 18th in points. I'm sure nobody would have thought that. Todd Gilliland is starting to pick things up. He's been 6th or better in 4 of his last 5 on the season. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see anybody worth putting any money down on, though.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, I think once you get beyond Stenhouse, some of the statistics become invalid and it has to go much more by gut feel. So maybe for all of these folks you want to look at to see where they qualify. Zane Smith with the top 10, perhaps, but again, it's 600 miles. You've got to make a ton of pit stops, which means your team's got to be among the best. Otherwise, you're going to lose time. You have to have your strategist be one of the best, make all the right calls, and make all the right adjustments as it goes from daytime to nighttime. That's just a ton to ask from not the top teams. So I think you're right in that drawing the line at Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is probably the right way to go.
Okay, so let's get our picks here now. And you go first, I believe. Right? Mm-hmm. Or do I go first?
I think it's me.
Okay. Who's it between? I know it's not between these two guys.
No, it's not. I'm debating whether to go.
It's between these four.
Yeah, I'm debating to go.
Or Elliott. But you could pick Elliott as second pick.
Yeah, I think for me, it's between Bell and Byron. Since he won last week, I'll go ahead and take William Byron.
Okay.
Since Bell won last week, I'll go ahead and take William Byron.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, I'll go with Reddick. Just based on the fact that I almost went with Blaney, but I'll go with Reddick.
Blaney. So for me, it's going to be between Blaney and Elliott for my second choice, but I like Elliott's chances this week because of his history at this track. So I'm going to go with Elliott.
Yeah, we're in that. Yeah, there's not much to go on here because we don't have a whole lot of long shots. So, all right, I'm taking Blaney as my second choice at 8-1. I think that's too low of a number. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'll take Bowman.
Bowman was on my list for sure. What was his number again?
Bowman?
Yeah.
25.
Where is Chastain?
Chastain is 18.
Actually, you know what? I wasn't thinking him, but since he's on the screen, I'll go with Gibbs because he's the same number, and I want a Toyota.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good. All right, so that leaves me with, I guess I could take either Chastain or Stenhouse. Wow. I guess I'll go with Chastain. I got to be more realistic. But yeah, Stenhouse is just clearly the good long shot out there.
Agreed.
So there you go. Byron, Elliott, Gibbs, Reddick, Bowman, Chastain. And that is our preview for the Coke 600. Now we're going to, let's pop this off the screen. Let's move over to our F1 coverage. So let's pop that in there and start by talking a little bit. Oh, as far as before we really move over everything, just remind everybody, check out the starting lineup report on Saturday. I don't know when qualifying is. I haven't checked up on that. Maybe I'll be able to know that before the end of the show. But I will be on usually within an hour after qualifying ends on Saturday. So you can check out the video then. I'll update everything. Again, very important qualifying. So that'll be coming up on Saturday. As far as F1 is concerned, we've got the big race that starts it all at Monaco. But before we talk about Monaco, Max Verstappen with the win. So it's good that you had him as one of the picks last week at 4-1. But yes, Max Verstappen qualifying first. He qualified first, right?
He
qualified, or was he second?
He was second, actually.
So he was able to overtake him at the start, and then that was it. You couldn't catch him.
Exactly right. He got 2 free pit stops because of a virtual safety car and a safety car as well, but I don't think that mattered. Verstappen got himself on the pole. It was a very close fight for pole. Piastri was the one that ended up beating him to it. But Max probably had the overtaking move of the year so far into turn 1. Just let it coast along in on the outside alongside Piastri. Piastri didn't try to chop him off like we've seen with Verstappen and Norris going into the first turns, and that let Verstappen through. And then before you knew it, he had built up a multi-second lead, and it was just his race to lose after that. Like I said, it's a track that reminded me a lot of Suzuka in the way that the corners are, the narrowness of the track, the way the braking zones come up. Not a whole heck of a lot of places to pass, just one DRS zone. And once he got in the lead, there was no looking back. It was all Max Verstappen.
Okay, so now it's Monaco, and taking a look at, it's pretty similar. I know we talked about it had been a while before any driver had started outside the top 3. I think it was the top 3 and won last week. Well, it's been since 1997 since anyone has won at Monaco outside the starting 3 positions. And the defending champ, Charles Leclerc, what's up with that?
Ferrari's having problems. So Charles Leclerc, first Monaco native to actually win his home race last year. It was great for him and Ferrari. This is just a unique track. If you can nail it in qualifying, generally pole, though you can win from second place as well. Generally, it's got to be from pole because you're going to get that run into that first turn, and then once you're there, there's no chance of passing. You could drive like 50 miles an hour.
Just don't sneeze.
Exactly right. You could drive 50 miles an hour as long as you don't hit anything or bounce off of anything. There's no place that anybody can pass you. So that's basically what Leclerc and Ferrari did last year. This year, they're even worse off. So I don't see a Ferrari being in there, though they could surprise me. They've got 2 really great drivers in Leclerc and Hamilton. So if they pull something out of their sleeve in qualifying, they've got a chance. But basically, it's going to be one of the guys that sits on the front row, which quite honestly, I think is going to be Piastri or Norris, just because they've got the car that is the one to beat right now. So Monaco, unlike Imola and unlike Suzuka, does not have any fast corners. It is all slow corners. And quite honestly, we've heard multiple times this year that is where the Red Bull is at its weakest. So again, I think that McLaren is going to be the team to beat. You're going to want to pay very close attention to qualifying, but likely you're probably going to have to make your picks before qualifying. Otherwise, once qualifying's over, the picks are going to be negative for whoever's on the front row. So in order to get a chance to make any money, you're going to have to choose pretty early in the week. A couple interesting things about Monaco this year, though. I think it was it last year? I think it was last year, and that's what helped Leclerc to win, that there was a red flag very early in the race. So under the rules, you could change tires in the pits under red flag. And according to the rules, you have to run 2 different sets of compound tires. So when that red flag happened last year, everybody changed tires under the red flag and kept their exact same positions, did not have to pit the rest of the day. And therefore, that's why Leclerc led the procession home. That can't happen this year. So here, they changed the rules. There's a unique thing for Monaco. Number 1, you can't change tires under a red flag anymore. Number 2, there is a mandated 2-stop minimum. So you have to use 3 sets of tires minimum. 3 sets of tires have to be used during the race, including during the rain, if it rains. And if you don't do one of those stops, for every stop that you don't do, you get a 30-second time penalty. So they're trying to force a little bit more strategy, a little bit more artificial action.
I guess they have to.
They have to. Otherwise, it's just a procession. But whoever's going to start on the front row is going to win. And like I said, that's going to be Piastri and Norris. The question is, which one of those 2 is going to be the one to get the pole? And quite honestly, the way that he's been going, I think it's going to be Piastri this week.
So you think Piastri is going to be the favorite then?
I think Piastri is going to be the favorite, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's got negative odds at this point.
Oh, yeah, because he's been like 150 plus.
Yep.
The last couple of weeks. All right, let's see.
You're getting a bonus. Take it.
Look at that. Almost 2-1. And that's because of Max, isn't it? I bet you.
Yeah, I bet you it's because of Max.
All right. So what do you think? Same or like 2-1 for Norris?
Last week
250?
Last week they were the same, so I think they're probably going to be the same again, though I think Norris should be slightly less, probably 250 in my mind, but I bet you they're going to be the same. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then Max should be 3-1 now?
Max should be way worse than that, but I would say probably
he's got to be down now if they're up.
4-1 for Verstappen in third.
I'm going to say 3-1, but yeah, you know more than I do, as usual. See, I'm a little bit surprised, unless it's going to come from other drivers. I'm a little surprised that those odds went up when Max was 4-1 last week.
Yeah, different track though.
But shouldn't this be a better track though? This is not a good track for Max compared to last week though, right?
I think last week, from a car perspective, was a much better track for Max.
Yeah.
I think this week the track does not suit the Red Bull. They're bad in slow corners, or that I shouldn't say they're bad in slow corners. That's where they have a lot of their problems. I don't know what the temperature is supposed to be, but the hotter it gets, the worse it is for Red Bull as well. And I think, being on the Mediterranean with the sun, with slow corners, I think McLaren's, just from a speed perspective, are probably going to have the advantage. So therefore, Verstappen probably certainly worse this week than last week.
Let's see. Monaco weather Sunday 66.
Yeah, that's not too bad. But still, the slow corners, it's all going to come down to qualifying. We know that Max is an ace at qualifying, so if he gets on the front row, he's going to have a chance. But in all honesty, I think it's Piastri's race.
And it doesn't look like any rain. Looks like there's some rain on Saturday.
Well, that's when qualifying is. So rain on qualifying could throw a complete wrench into the works.
Absolutely. That's right. Okay. So who's next?
Probably George Russell. No, Leclerc, giving it to the hometown kid at plus 850. Yeah, there's Russell. Hamilton will be next.
That's a big jump to Russell.
Big jump. And you're almost approaching positive odds there on, is that a top 4 finish on the far
Yes,
right?
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are all good odds for George Russell, to be honest with you. If you've got the strategy, if the extra stops do make this a strategy race, with the way that the Mercedes have been going and the way that they execute, I've been talking about it all season, the way George Russell is driving, he could be in store for a podium. So that plus 550 there in the middle actually looks very good for him.
Yeah. And the minus 105 for just to get in the top 4. So behind the top 3 drivers, that's not bad.
They're very likely to be there.
Okay. And Hamilton's at 18-1, but they don't have anything, right?
Yeah, Ferrari is really struggling. They're struggling with their car. A couple of weeks ago, Hamilton said he finally figured out how to drive the car and what they needed, but the team hasn't been able to really develop it. The upgrades that they've brought have not had the impact that they expected. So I think Ferrari continues to be on the back foot. And by the way, upgrades don't really matter at Monaco. It's all about starting from pole. The other tracks, next track, when we get to Spain, that'll be a bigger impact, but at Monaco it's really kind of a one-off race, all about qualifying.
Okay. And there's never any reason to talk about anybody else unless you think any of these drivers have a shot in the top 4.
Yeah, no, I don't. There's no reason even to talk about that. Even if it rains, like, we're not going to get 1996 again, where Olivier Panis won, which is those 4 cars, I think, that crossed the line in that race. It was a wet race, just a lot of attrition. There will be attrition here at Monaco, and drivers will make mistakes. But even if you have rain, you still just cannot pass. So you just take it. If you're in the lead, you just take it as easy and as simple as possible. Like you said, don't sneeze, don't make a mistake. As long as you do that, there's really no chance for anybody to get around you.
Okay. So who is your outright pick?
My outright pick this week is Oscar Piastri.
Okay. And have to feel good about the fact that you're getting 180 now.
Absolutely. Would have gotten 150 last week and I would have been wrong.
But at least you have Max backing you up at 4-1.
Exactly right.
Okay. Top four.
Top four, without a doubt, you've got to go with George Russell. He's been a pretty regular podium finisher. Mercedes, excellent on the strategy. They've not been making any kind of mistakes. They've been consistently top four, top five. I think this would be a great week for Russell from a top four perspective to go ahead and take him there.
All right. And then the winning car number.
That's got to be negative. Oh, yeah. Negative 225.
It is down, though.
Yeah,
that's probably what happened last week because it was minus 350 and that was a loser.
Yeah, that is not bad, actually, considering you get two at Monaco. One of them is going to be on the front row, almost guaranteed. I think Piastri is most likely to win the race. So I guess my third bet, honestly, would be the negative 225 McLaren.
Okay. I mean, you have other options, keeping in mind that if you take this and you lose, you're losing 225 and not just $100.
Well, I would go with Piastri as the win. That's my outright number one.
Do you think it's safer to go Piastri Norris instead of taking McLaren?
Yeah, you get a better payout, don't you? I'd have to do that.
Yeah.
I think
well, you do.
Yeah, I think if you split the two at both being plus 180, I think you have to put less down on each. And you probably get a better return than the negative 225 and certainly less risk than losing 225.
Yeah, so if you do Piastri, Russell, and McLaren, obviously if you win all of them, you're going to be at 280, like about somewhere around 375. But if you do it this way, see, that's the only difference is you do it this way, then you're only going to get 285. So you're going to lose the opportunity for 100 to win, but you're also going to protect yourself from losing the 225, because if the 225 does not come in and Piastri wins, then you're going to need, George Russell to be your deciding factor on whether or not you're like up 100 or down 100.
Yeah, so I'd rather take the two drivers this week with positive odds than avoid.
No reason to risk it, you mean?
Yep.
Okay.
Agreed.
So Piastri and Norris at 180 each, Russell minus 105, and you'll stay away from that heavy win car bet. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and Russell, I mean, look, at Red Bull 350, it's so, I know why they're doing it, but it's just so silly why anybody would even take the chance. And just, I know it's only an extra plus 50, but it's just no chance. It's like 1% chance, less than 1% that Max, if Red Bull wins, is not Max. Come on.
Yeah.
So
there's no way that wins that it's not going to be Max.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. That is our F1 coverage for the week. Normally, we might say, see ya. By the way, what's up with what's the schedule like?
We stay in Europe. We go to Spain next, and then we'll take a week off before we go to Canada. Spain is an interesting track, so definitely tune in next week. It's a place where a lot of teams will be bringing a lot of upgrades, so we could see a shakeup in the order when we get to Spain. And it's a track that all the teams know really, really well and test a ton at. So it'll be an interesting race for sure. Definitely more close fought, I would think, than we'll see at Monaco.
Okay, let's now talk a little bit about the one race a year. Now we talk about the IndyCar series, the Indianapolis 500. And I guess the big news to talk about here was the penalty laid down against the Penske drivers. Correct?
That is correct. Both Penske cars. So Joseph Newgarden, two-time defending champ of the Indy 500 this year, as well as Will Power, will be starting 32nd and 33rd. They were both in the top 12 in the Fast 12 with a chance at pole, but when they were going through inspection for that qualifying, they noticed something amiss on, I think it was Newgarden's car. Will Power had already been cleared and passed inspection. But when they saw something on Joseph Newgarden's car, on the rear attenuator, they called Power's car back to take a look at it as well. And the team, attempted to make changes. The more I hear about it, the more I understand what happened. I do think that it was not a performance gain. I think it was probably an IndyCar screw up, to be honest with you, not the penalty, but the fact that these rear attenuators have been raced by these cars at other tracks already and have passed inspection multiple times. So for them to find out or decide or find it or whatever, however you want to phrase it, just before pole qualifying for Indianapolis is kind of screwy, if you ask me. These have definitely been used at other tracks, but nonetheless, it is in violation of the rules. And despite the fact that Penske asked if they could fix it, it happens to be one of those things that you cannot change once you pass inspection. So both cars were pulled back to the garage. And then the day after, Doug Bowles came out and IndyCar said that as a result of them theoretically failing inspection, not theoretically, actually failing inspection, that they would relinquish their top 12 starting spots as well and would start 32nd and 33rd respectively. So going to be really tough for Joseph Newgarden to do a three-peat, 3 in a row this year, starting from the last row, and same thing for Will Power. Just a big blow to those two guys and big blow to Penske in general. Both teams fined $100,000 and both team strategists ejected for the weekend as well. And Indy and winning the Indy 500 is all about fuel strategy. So not having your strategist there to call the shots is going to be a really tough hill to climb for both of those drivers on Sunday.
All right. So what is a strategist? What's what is the example?
It's a crew chief. It
is. Okay.
Chief. Yeah.
So that's your main guy. That's your main guy that's telling you what to do.
Tim Cindric, president of Penske, Team Penske, will not be with Joseph Newgarden. Same thing. Will Power loses his strategist. So the main person calling the shots for you at when to come into pit, what fuel number to be running, what fuel mileage to target, et cetera, gone.
Okay.
With somebody else.
Well, they're already far back anyway. I mean, I don't know what the last time the drivers won or the farthest back anybody's won. I'll have to check up on that. I don't know if you know, but that seems like a long shot. Okay, so who's Robert Schwartzman?
This is probably the most amazing story. So Prema is a team that has a lot of success in junior series in Europe. They've run for F2, they've done F3, a lot of the European junior series of feeders to Formula One. This year, they decided for the very first time to go off and race a full season of IndyCar. So they took their team, took the resources, bought some IndyCars, and came, and this is their first year in the series. And Robert Schwartzman is a rookie driver, mainly came up in European series as well. And this is his first year at IndyCar. In fact, this is his first oval race, period. And he is on pole for the Indianapolis 500, the biggest race in IndyCar, arguably the biggest race in the world. To be able, your first time out on a first oval outing.
That's
with
crazy.
The team to be on pole, and he slam dunked it too. They just made no mistakes. They prepped the car perfectly, and Schwartzman held on to it for 10 miles or 4 laps to get that pole. It was a really impressive job from Robert Schwartzman and the Prema team.
Okay.
Are they going to win?
No. I can predict that.
Like we talked about with Charlotte and the Coca-Cola 600, 500 miles is a long way. You got a lot of pit stops that you've got to go through. You've got to call the right strategy. It can be a fuel mileage race. It takes experience to win this thing. And it takes experience within the team. A new team, first year team coming out and doing it. Can they do it? Absolutely. Can it happen? We've seen weirder things happen. But in all likelihood, it's going to come from one of the bigger teams like a Chip Ganassi, Team Penske, or a Andretti or McLaren, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he hasn't finished. He hasn't even finished anywhere in the top 20 yet this year.
Yep.
So, yeah. Let's just hope he can make it. Like give him a lap. Hopefully he won't do anything stupid.
He'll be fine. He's a good driver. You don't get to IndyCar and you don't get to.
No, it's just he'll be nervous. So
exactly right. Just keep your head about you.
Yes.
I do have a feeling, like you said, that the other guys aren't going to cut him any slack. You got Pato O'Ward out there with him as well. Takuma Sato, 2-time winner. So these guys know how to get around this place. I don't think they're going to give him one sniff of a chance. If they have the ability to overtake him, they're absolutely going to.
Okay, so are there any drivers that are starting off in bad positions that, besides, of course, Power and Newgarden, that you would have looked at that you probably can't do that right now? Would Herta be one of them?
Herta would be one of them. He's not so far out of the question. Yeah, he is actually 27th. Larson I would have looked at, but I think for Larson to come from 19th to win, I would have liked to have seen him in the top 8, to be honest with you. So I think he's a little bit too far back. Herta would have been, if he would have been like 21st inside the top 20, maybe inside the top 21, would have gone with him. Would have taken a good look at him. But again, it's really tough to win this race from that far back. I think I'm trying to scroll through. It's odd to look at the starting position because this race goes all the way back to 1911. Plus you had different sanctioning bodies.
Yeah.
I see Johnny Rutherford from 25th in 1974. I don't know if that was weather affected. I see Al Unser in 1987 from 20th. Again, don't know if that was weather affected.
Okay.
But generally speaking, like since IndyCar has become IndyCar, so just take it from 1996 onward after the split. The furthest back anyone has come is 19th, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and that was, I lost my line here. That was in 2014. Joseph Newgarden did win from 17th in 2023. So I think realistically, you've got to be inside the top 20. You've got to have a really fast car inside the top 20, which again, is why Herta would have been on the list had he made it 21st or better. But I think 27th is just too far to come from.
Well, the good news though is, or at least looking at records, is that at least it's not like Newgarden and Power are where they are because they didn't qualify well because
Correct.
They're slow. They actually were in the top 10, were they?
They were top 12.
Top 12. Okay.
I don't know where they would have been because they didn't get to run if they would have been able to make the first 2 rows top 6 positions or not. They're definitely going to put on a show. If there's any Indy 500 that could be won from the last row this year is probably it with Power and Newgarden artificially starting back there. So they'll definitely be interesting to watch, but it's a long race, so a lot and they were very good at calling their strategies. So they're, knowing they're starting back there, that definitely is going to alter their strategies. But then again, you're not going to have Tim Cindric for Joseph Newgarden.
That is true.
Race.
Yeah. You got to throw that in there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you think is favorite? Is it the champ?
No, you mean
yeah, he's making it like a Max Verstappen of the Indy series.
I think he should be the favorite. I'd be, but with Pato O'Ward on the front row and how close he's come so many times, I think just from a heart standpoint, probably Pato O'Ward's the favorite, but Pallot's got to not be far behind him.
There you go. 5-1.
That's a good number. O'Ward has been so close multiple times. I think he's a 2-time runner-up finisher. I think there's been only one Indy 500 that he's failed to finish inside the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, if not the top 6. O'Ward is generally there. The only reason he hasn't won so far is that he just hasn't made that last right move. Newgarden got past him last year in the closing laps. I think that was the best position that Award has ever been in at this race, but Newgarden just cinched his belts down a little bit tighter, was willing to be a bit more brave. If Award can get that same bravery and make that move in the closing laps, I would expect him to be there, but that would be the difference maker. However, I think more likely, Chip Ganassi Racing, Alex Palou. Granted, this is an oval race. It'll be the first oval race of the season. Palou and Chip Ganassi Racing have been dominating on the road courses, but Alex Palou is good. Chip Ganassi Racing prepares well for Indianapolis 500. They always have fast cars. And by the way, they have great strategists and excellent pit crews. And the number of times that you come down pit road during this race, I think that just favors a team like Chip Ganassi Racing and certainly a champion like Alex Palou.
Okay. Well, he's right there.
Not getting much of a difference there, unfortunately.
No, not at all. And here's the rest. Schwartzman, 8-1.
8-1.
Come on now.
Is he fast? Yes. Does he have a chance to win? Yes. Could he win? Yes. Is it likely? Probably.
Yeah, not at 8-1.
No offense. Right. Schwartzman, it's great achievement, but this is a long race. It takes a fantastic team, and Prema is a fantastic team. They just don't have the experience and the depth of resources and experience that Chip Ganassi or a McLaren or a Penske do.
Okay, so tell me if you see someone you like.
I like Sato, 2-time winner. The only thing holding him back is the fact that he's a one-off. He's not racing this whole season, so this is a one-off race for him. However, he is another one that is very willing to be brave. He's got a front row starting spot, very fast, knows how to win this race. So I think Takuma Sato stands out. However, the one that stands out most for me, and I would put him beside, or just behind, I should say, Award and Palou, would be Scott McLaughlin. So I talked a lot about having a solid strategist, a team with a lot of experience that knows this race really well. That's Scott McLaughlin with Team Penske. He did not lose his spot. And honestly, this is why the penalty gets so weird. The reason McLaughlin did not get the penalty was because while his car crashed, IndyCar took his rear attenuator. The rear attenuator that came off of that car happened to be a newer rear attenuator that the team just happened to have on the car versus in the rotation that, Will Power and Joseph Newgarden happened to have the rotation of the ones that they modified. McLaughlin happened to have a rotation of one that they didn't modify. And the modification appears to have just been more cosmetic than anything else. So kind of luck of the draw that McLaughlin didn't happen to have one of those rear attenuators on the car. So he's able to keep his starting spot. And he's starting inside the top 20, like I said, is really the place that you want to be. In fact, he's starting 10th. So I think that's a pretty good spot for him to be able, as long as he's able to keep his nose clean, stay out of trouble in the early miles, just get to that last 50 miles. I think McLaughlin can likely be in a position to win. And he's been getting better onto the ovals in the past couple of years as well. So McLaughlin would be my third choice behind Palou and Award.
Okay, so in that order, Ward, Palou, and McLaughlin. And again, you're getting 9-1 on McLaughlin. Yep. And then just to round it out, let's see here. There's our boy Kyle Larson at 18-1.
Too far back for me. And plus, you got to weigh in the fact that if the race runs long, he has to prioritize.
Yeah. Now, all right. So if he doesn't make the starting the green flag at Charlotte, so all of his playoff points are gone.
Correct. Number one, he would have to apply for a waiver,
which he'll get.
He should get. But if you're granted a waiver for non-medical reasons, you lose all of your playoff points and your your seeding for the start of the playoffs. So effectively, you would start last among the playoff field at that reset points value.
All right. Well, look.
Keep in mind, Kyle Larson has the most playoff points of any driver right now.
Okay, look. I don't think there is any way that if Kyle Larson has a chance to win the Indianapolis 500 and knows that the only way he's going to have the chance to win is if he, forfeits up his playoff points in NASCAR, he's going to forfeit up his playoff points in NASCAR.
I completely agree with you. If Kyle Larson has a chance to win,
if he has a chance,
he's going to stay at Indy. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. However, I think coming from 19th position is going to be really tough for him to do. He's not in this car every single week. This is only his second Indy 500. Did pretty decent last year. I would expect him to do decently again. He's a great driver and he can drive anything, but going up against, Alex Plow that's in this car every single week, that's got, however many Indianapolis 500 starts under his belt, along with a runner-up finish himself. It's just a very tall order. So I think coming from 19th is just a little bit too deep. However, I completely agree. If there's a choice between winning the Indy 500 and giving up your playoff points, Larson's going to choose the Indy 500 and fully endorse that.
I want nothing less than that option to have, because I think it would be really good drama.
It would be fantastic for both series. Can you imagine somebody winning the Indy 500 from NASCAR and then going to the next race?
But he doesn't even have to win in my mind. I mean, just compete, give up his points, and that's a great story.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if there's a driver at the end of the year in the playoffs in NASCAR that can make up,
yeah,
Larson. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I just think the only reason why I'm saying stay away from Kyle Larson this week is that 19th starting spot. That's it. That's the only reason. He's got the team. He's on McLaren. So awards with McLaren. They're a great team, great strategy, a lot of experience, depth of pockets, all of that. Kyle Larson, great driver. Just winning this race from the 19th position is going to be really hard for him.
So that means that if we look here, we got the 18-1s jumping up from the 12. So out of all of these numbers here, these numbered drivers here, would you pick Kyle Larson, or would you take one of these other drivers?
I would take the driver, one you scrolled past right there, Marcus Ericsson.
Okay.
20-1, starting 9th, driving for Andretti. He's been in contention to win this race. He has won this race. So definitely the experience is there. Andretti typically quick and knows this speedway and how to call this race. Starting inside the top 10.
Okay.
Why would you not take 20-1? He might be one of the best long shots I see on the board.
Isn't Maluskas also a big number? 18.
He's driving for AJ Foyt Racing, so different team. Not the depth of resources and preparation perhaps that
Ericsson has.
Andretti has. However, there is an AJ Foyt driver that I would take that was also further down there because he knows how to wheel a thing at Indianapolis, and that's Santino Ferrucci at 25-1. Santino Ferrucci is starting 15th. He has a tendency to get up there and lead laps. He'll find his way to the front. He is smart. He knows how to get to the end of the race as well. I think he's one that can lift the AJ Foyt organization up to the levels of an Andretti Autosport at a place like Indy. So Santino Ferrucci, Marcus Ericsson, those would be my two long shots for him.
Is Ferrucci Italian?
He's American, but yes, Italian-American.
So he's driving under the American flag.
He actually has his car painted like the American flag. So if you're patriotic, Santino Ferrucci is the way to go anyway.
Okay. All right. So Award, Palou, McLaughlin, those are the top three. And long shots, Ericsson and Ferrucci.
You got it.
Okay. So there you go. That's our coverage of the greatest day in motorsports coming up on Sunday. Hopefully the weather's going to be fine. We checked the weather for Monaco. I didn't check the weather for the other places, but you said that you did. You didn't notice anything?
I did not notice anything. I'm not so sure about Charlotte. I didn't take as close a look there, but Indy is supposedly dry, which means Kyle Larson, assuming the race doesn't have any other problems, should be pretty safe to be able to get to Charlotte on time.
Let's see. Charlotte weekend should be fine. PM showers on Sunday. Let me see. Doesn't say when. So you'll have to keep an eye on some late possible showers later in the day on Sunday. So that's something to keep an eye on. And of course, you know that, I mean, they're not going to start the race early because this is actually one of those races where I actually would be, okay, I know you got to stay where you got to stay.
Yep.
Normally I'd be all over. Well, then just move it up, but can't do that. So, all right. So we'll see. More drama potentially with if we get some rain on Sunday night, but hopefully we won't have to deal with any of that. Again, I'm going to be back on Saturday after qualifying and practice to update everything there as far as the Coke 600. And if you have any questions regarding anything that we talked about, you can let us know in the comments section. Just ask away, even more so for CJ. CJ will get back to you. Any of those important questions regarding anything in all three series. You're going to have reports. Are you going to do 2 races or 3 this week for RotoWire?
This is Dan's week for Monaco, so I'll be taking the week off of Formula One. We'll post a link, though, to be able to see Dan's report on rotowire.com. I'll have a betting preview for the Indy 500, hopefully up here in the next day or two. Not a whole lot of prop bets that are out there yet, just the kind of winners and top threes at this point. So maybe look for that around Thursday. We can post the link as well, and then I'll have my preview for the Coke 600 as well.
Okay. So look out for that. And what do we have for NASCAR next week?
NASCAR next week.
Nashville. That's not real good, is it?
No.
Yeah, that's a shame. And then Michigan after that. So Michigan can be good.
Nashville, Michigan, and then Mexico City, and then Pocono. And keep in mind that these races now we're entering the stretch where they're shown on Amazon Prime. So Fox is done.
The races.
The races will be on Amazon Prime.
Okay. So I have that, but I have to, having to deal with well, it could be worse. Could be on Peacock. That would be really bad. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with anything on Peacock. I've tried that before. They're terrible. Okay. So, and does that mean qualifying and practice are a different look, or are they still there? Do you know? I think they might be there actually till Mexico, I think.
I think they are until Mexico. Yeah. I think you're right.
I think that might be the case. So, all right. Anyway, and then off next week we have F1 next week too, or no?
Next week is Spain, yes. And then we have the off week before going to Canada.
Okay. So next week we have F1 and NASCAR, and then we will be back on just a NASCAR week, and then it'll keep in mind we don't talk about IndyCar at all. So that's it for our IndyCar coverage for 2025. If you have any questions or comments regarding IndyCar, just let us know, and TJ will answer your question.
I will absolutely answer questions whether we talk about them or not.
Yes. So again, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That's the best way you don't miss any of these shows, especially when we go on live. And you want to hit that little bell icon. The bell is real important. That's another reminder about, hey, there's a show on, and we'll let you know. And a lot of times it's with emails. That's also very important. You get an email that pops up and says, hey, there's a show coming up later. Click the thing it says you can click the notify me option, and then boom, an email will pop up to notify you when it's going on, so you don't miss it. So, and then we've got the thanks icon on the bottom of the screen as well. So if you want to donate to the channel, that's another way to donate to the channel, and also to sponsor us. If you want to use that word, that term, anything you want, that's great for us. Just let us know. We really appreciate it. Supporting us in any way possible just means we're going to keep this up, and the shows will get better and better. So for CJ Radune from rotowire.com, look out for his reports. I'll have a link on the description of the video coming up on Saturday. And also, of course, this show is available on demand if you missed it live, so you don't miss anything. We'll see you again next week, everybody. Thanks for tuning into our live coverage.